Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 757th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when King Mohammed, son of Sabik, said to Hassan the merchant, An thou bring me that I seek of thee, especial favor awaiteth thee, and thou mayest now rejoice in that which I have promised thee. But an thou bring it not, thou art not of us, nor are we of thee. Hassan kissed ground before the king and went out from his presence. Then he chose 5 of the best of his Mamelukes, who could all write and read, and were learned, intelligent, accomplished, and he gave each of them 5,000 dinars, saying, I reared you not save for the like of this day, so do ye help me to further the king's desire, and deliver me from his hands. Quoth they, What wilt thou have us do? Our lives be thy ransom. Quoth he, I wish you to go each to a different country, and seek out diligently the learned and erudite and literate, and the tellers of wondrous stories and marvelous histories, and do you endeavor to procure me the story of Saif Al-Muluk. If you find it with anyone, pay him what price soever he asks for it, although he demand 1,000 dinars. Give him what ye may, and promise him the rest, and bring me the story. For whoso happeneth on it, and bringeth to me, I will bestow on him a costly robe of honor, and largesse galore, and there shall be more from me besides worship. Then said he to one of them, Hie thou to Al-Hind, and Al-Sind, and all their provinces and dependencies. To another, Hie thou to the home of the Persians, and to China and her climates. To the third, Hie thou to the land of Khorasan and its districts. To the fourth, Hie thou to Mauritania and all its regions, districts, provinces, and quarters. And to the fifth, Hie thou to Syria and Egypt and their outliers. Moreover, he chose them out an auspicious day, and said to them, Fare ye forth this day, and be diligent in the accomplishment of my need, and be not thou slothful, though the case cost you your lives. So they farewelled him, and departed, each taking the direction prescribed to him. Now 4 of them were absent 4 months, and searched, but found nothing. So they returned and told their masters, whose breast was straitened, that they had ransacked towns and cities and countries for the thing he sought, but had happened upon naught thereof. Meanwhile, the 5th servant journeyed till he came to the land of Syria, and entered Damascus, which he found a pleasant city, and a secure, abounding in trees and rills and lays and fruiteries and birds chanting the praises of Allah the One, the All-Powerful, of sway, creator of night and day. Here he tarried some time, asking for his master's desire, but none answered him. Wherefore he was on the point of departing thence to another place, when he met a young man running and stumbling over his skirts. So he asked him, Wherefore runnest thou in such eagerness, and whither dost thou press? And he answered, There is an elder here, a man of learning, who every day at his time taketh his seat on a stool, and relateth tales and stories of delectable anecdotes, whereof never heard any the like. And I am ready to get my place near him, and I fear I shall find no room because of the much folk. Quoth the Mameluke, Take me with thee. And quoth the youth, Make haste in thy walking. So he shut his door, and hastened with him to the place of recitation, where he saw an old man of bright favor, seated on a stool, holding forth to the folk. He sat down near him, and addressed himself to hear the story, till the going down of the sun, when the old man made an end of his tales, and the people, having heard it, dispersed from about him. Whereupon the Mameluke accosted him and saluted him, and he returned his salam and greeted him with the utmost worship and courtesy. Then said the messenger to him, O my lord, Sheikh, thou art a comely and revered man, and thy discourse is goodly, but I would fain ask thee of somewhat. Replied the old man, Ask of what thou wilt. Then said the Mameluke, Hast thou the story of Saif Al-Muluk and Badi'a Al-Jamal? Rejoined the elder, and told thee of this story, and informed thee thereof. Answered the messenger, None told me of it, but I am come from a far country in quest of this tale, and I will pay thee whatsoever thou ask for its price, if thou have it, and wilt, if thy bounty and charity, impart it to me, and make it an alms to me of the generosity of thy nature. For had I my life in my hand, and ravished upon thee for this thing, yet were it pleasing to my heart. Replied the old man, Be of good cheer, and keep thine eye cool and clear. Thou shalt have it. But this is no story that one telleth in the beaten highway, nor do I give it to every one. Cried the other, By Allah, O my lord, do not grudge at me, but ask of me what price thou wilt. And the old man, If thou wish for a history, give me 100 dinars, and thou shalt have it, but upon 5 conditions. Now, when the Mameluke knew that the old man had the story, and was willing to sell it to him, he joyed with exceeding joy, and said, I will give thee the 100 dinars by way of price, and 10 to boot as a gratuity, and take it on conditions of thou which thou speakest. Said the old man, Then go and fetch the gold pieces, and take that thou seekest. So the messenger kissed his hands, and joyful, and returned to his lodging, where he laid 110 dinars in a purse that he had with him. As soon as morning morrowed, he donned his clothes, and taking the dinars, repaired to the storyteller, whom he found seated at the door of his house. So he saluted him, and the other returned the salam. Then he gave him the gold, and the old man took it, and carrying the messenger into his house, made him sit down in a convenient place, when he set before him ink case and reed paper, and giving him a book, said to him, Write out thou seekest of the night story of Sayf Al-Muluk from this book. Accordingly, the Mameluke fell to work, and wrote till he had an end of his copy. When he read it to the old man, and he corrected it, and presently said to him, Know, O my son, that my 5 conditions are as follows. Firstly, that thou tell not the story in the beaten high road, nor before women and slave girls, nor to black slaves, nor featherheads, nor again to boys, but read it only before kings and emirs and wazirs and men of learning, as such as expounders of the Koran and others. Thereupon the messenger accepted the conditions, and kissing the old man's hand, took leave of him, and fared forth. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 758th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the Mameluke of Hassan the merchant had copied the tale out of the book belonging to the old man of Damascus, and had accepted his conditions and farewelled him, he fared forth on the same day, glad and joyful, and journeyed on diligently of the excess of his contentment, for that he had gotten the story of Sayf Al-Muluk, till he came to his own country, when he dispatched his servant to bear the good news to his master, and say to him, Thy Mameluke is come back in safety, and hath won his will and his aim. Now of the term appointed between Hassan and the king, there wanted but 10 days. Then, after taking rest in his own quarters, he himself went into the merchant, and told him all that had befallen him, and gave him the book containing the story of Sayf Al-Muluk and Badi'a Al-Jamal, when Hassan joyed with exceeding joy at the sight, and bestowed on him all the clothes he had on, and gave him 10 thoroughbred horses, and the like number of camels and mules, and 3 negro chattels, and 2 white slaves. Then Hassan took the book, and copied out the story plainly in his own hand, after which he presented himself before the king, and said to him, O thou auspicious king, I have brought thee a night story, and a rarely pleasant relation, whose like none ever heard at all. When these words reached the king's ear, he sent forthright for all the emirs, who were men of understanding, and all the learned doctors and folk of culture, and poets and wits, and Hassan sat down and read the history before the king, who marveled thereat and approved it, as did all who were present. And they showered gold and silver and jewels upon the merchant. Moreover, the king bestowed on him a costly robe of honor, of the richest of his raiment, and gave him a great city with its castle and outliers, and he appointed him one of his chief wazirs, and seated him on his right hand. Then he caused the scribes write the story in letters of gold, and lay it up in his privy treasures, and whenever his breast was straitened, he would summon Hassan, and he would read him the story, which is as follows. This is the story of Prince Sayf Al-Muluk and the Princess Badi'a Al-Jamal. There was once, in days of old, and in ages and times long told, a king of Egypt called Asim bin Safwan, who was a liberal and beneficent sovereign, venerable and majestic. He owned many cities and sconces and fortresses, and troops and warriors, and had a wazir named Faris bin Salah. And he was all his subjects worshipped the sun and the fire, instead of the all-powerful sire, the glorious, the victorious. Now, this king was become a very old man, weakened and wasted with age and sickness and decrepitude, for he had lived 180 years, and had no child, or either male or female, by reason whereof he was ever in cark and care from morning to night, and from night to morn. It so happened that one day of the days he was sitting on the throne of his kingship, with his emirs and wazirs and captains and grandees and attendants on him, according to their custom in their several stations, and whenever there came in an emir who had with him a son or 2 sons, or happily 3 who stood at the sides of their sires, the king envied him and said in himself, "Every one of these is happy and rejoiceth in his children, whilst I have no child, and tomorrow I die, and leave my reign and throne and lands and hoards, and strangers will take them, and none will bear me in memory, nor will there remain any mention of me in this world." Then he became drowned in the sea of thought, for much thronging of griefs and anxieties upon his heart, like travelers faring for the well. He shed tears, and descending from his throne, sat down upon the floor, weeping and humbling himself before the Lord. Now, when the wazir and the notables of the realm and the others who were present in the assembly saw him do thus with his royal person, they feared for their lives, and let the puissants cry aloud to the lieges, saying, "Hie ye to your homes, and rest till the king recover from what aileth him." So they went away, leaving none in the presence, save the minister, who, as soon as the king came to himself, kissed ground between his hands, and said, "O king of the age and the time, wherefore this weeping and wailing? Tell me, who hath transgressed against thee of the kings of Castilians, or emirs, or grandees, and inform me who hath thwarted thee, O my liege, my lord, that we may fall on him and tear his soul from him 2 sides." But he spake not, neither raised his head. Whereupon the minister kissed ground before him a second time, and said to him, "O master, I am even as thy son and thy slave, nay, I have reared thee. Yet know I not the cause of thy cark and chagrin of all this thy case. And who should know but I, who stand in my stead between thy hands? Tell me, therefore, why this weeping, and wherefore thine affliction?" Nevertheless, the king neither opened his mouth, nor raised his head, nor ceased not to weep and cry with a loud crying and lament and exceeding lamentations. Alas! The wazir took patience with him a while, after which he said to him, "Except thou tell me the cause of this thine affliction, I will set this sword to my heart, and will slay myself before thine eyes, rather than see thee thus distressed." Then King Asim raised his head, and wiping away his tears, said, "O minister of good counsel and experience, leave me to my care and my chagrin, for that which is in my heart of sorrow sufficeth me." But Faris said, "Tell me, O king, the cause of this thy weeping. Haply Allah will appoint thee relief at my hands." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say his permitted say. Now, when it was the 759th night, she pursued, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the wazir said to King Asim, Tell me the cause of this thy weeping. Haply Allah shall appoint thee relief at my hands." Replied the king, "O wazir, I weep not for moneys, nor horses, nor kingdoms, nor aught else, but that I am become an old man, yea, very old, nigh upon 180 years of age, and I have not been blessed with a child, male or female. So when I die, they will bury me, and my trace will be effaced, and my name cut off. The stranger will take my throne and reign, and none will ever mention me of my being. Rejoined the minister Phares, O king of the age, I am older than thou by 100 years, yet I have never been blessed with the boon of child, and cease not day and night from cark and care and concern. So how shall we do, I and thou? Quoth Asim, O Wazir, hast thou no device or shaft in this matter? And quoth the minister, No, O king, that I have heard of a sovereign in the land of Sabah, by name of Solomon, David's son, about the twain be peace, who pretended to prophetship, and avoucheth that he hath a mighty Lord, who can do all things, and whose kingdom is in the heavens, and hath dominion over all mankind, and birds and beasts, and over the wind and the jinn. Moreover, he kenneth the speech of birds, and the language of every other created thing, and withal he calleth all creatures to the worship of his Lord, and discourseth to them by their service. So let us send him a messenger in the king's name, and seek of him our need, beseeching him to put up prayer to his Lord, that he vouchsafe each of us boon of issue. If his faith be soothfast, and his Lord omnipotent, he will assuredly bless each of us with a child, male or female. And if the thing thus fall out, we will enter his faith and worship his Lord. Else will we take patience and devise us another device. The king cried, This is well seen, and my breast is broadened this by speech. But where shall we find a messenger befitting this grave matter? For that this Solomon is no kinglet, and the approaching him is no light affair. Indeed, I will send him none on the like of this matter, save thyself. For thou art ancient, and versed in all manner of affairs, and the like of thee is the like of myself. Wherefore I desire that thou weary thyself in journey to him, and occupy thyself seditiously with accompanying his matter, so happy solace may be thy hand. The minister said, I hear, and I obey. But rise thou forthwith, and seat thee upon the throne, so the emirs and lords of the realm, and officers and the lieges, may enter applying themselves to thy service, according to their custom. For they all went away from thee, troubled at heart on thine account. So the king arose forthright, and sat down on the throne of his kingship, whilst the wazir went out, and said to the chamberlain, Bid the folk proceed to their service, as of their wont. Accordingly, the troops and captains and lords of the land enter after they had spread the tables, and ate and drank, and withdrew as was their wont. After which the wazir Phares went forth from King Asim, and repairing to his own house, equipped himself for travel, and returned to the king, who opened to him the treasuries, and provided him with rarities and things of price, and rich stuffs, and gear without compare, such as nor emir nor wazir hath power to possess. Moreover, King Asim charged him to accost Solomon with reverence, foregoing him with a salam, but not exceeding in speech. And continued he, Then do thou ask of him thy need, and if he say 'tis granted, return to us in haste, and I shall be awaiting thee. Accordingly, the minister kissed hands, and took the presents, and setting out fared on night and day, till he came within 15 days' journey of Saba. Meanwhile, Allah, extolled and exalted be He, inspired Solomon the son of David, the peace be upon him, and said to him, O Solomon, the king of Egypt sendeth unto thee his chief wazir with a present of rarities, and such things of price. So do thou dispatch thy counselor Asaph bin Barkahai to meet him with honor, and with victual at the halting places. And when he cometh to thy presence, say unto him, Verily thy king hath sent thee in quest of this and that, and thy business is thus and thus. Then do thou propound to him the saving faith. Whereupon Solomon bade his wazir make him ready a company of his retainers, and go forth to meet the minister of Egypt, with honor and sumptuous provisions at the halting places. So Asaph made ready all that was needed for their entertainment, and setting out and fared on till he fell in with Phares, and accosted him with salam, honoring him and his company with exceeding honor. Moreover, he brought them provant and provender at the halting places, and said to them, Welcome, come, and welcome, and fair welcome to the coming guests. Rejoice in the certain winning of your wish. Be your souls of good cheer, and your eyes cool and clear, and your breasts be broadened. Quoth Phares to him, who acquainted him with this? And he said to Asaph, O my lord, and who gave thee to know of us and our need? It was Solomon, son of David, on whom be peace, told us of this. And who told our Lord Solomon? The Lord of the heaven and earth told him, the God of all creatures. This is none other than a mighty God. And do ye not worship him? We worship the sun, and prostrate ourselves thereto. O Wazir Faris, the sun is but a star of the stars created by Allah. Extolled and exalted be he. And Allah forbid that it should be a lord. Because whiles it riseth and sets, but our Lord is ever present and never absent, and he over all things is omnipotent. Then they journeyed on a little while till they came to the land of Saba, and drew near the throne of Solomon, David's son, upon the twain be peace, who commanded his hosts of men and jinn and others to form line on their roads. So the beasts of the sea, and the elephants, and the leopards, and the lynxes, and all beasts of the land ranged themselves on either side of the way, after their several kinds, and similarly the jinn drew out in 2 ranks, appearing all to mortal eyes without concealment, in divers forms, grisly and gruesome. So they lined the road on either hand, and the birds bespread their wings over the host of creatures to shade them, warbling one to the other in all manners of voices and tongues. Now when the people of Egypt came to this terrible array, they dreaded it, and durst not proceed. But Asaph said to them, Pass on amidst them, and walk forward, and fear them not, for they are slaves of Solomon, son of David, and none of them will harm you. So saying, he entered between the ranks, followed by all the folk, and amongst them the Wazir of Egypt, and his company, fearful. And they ceased not faring forwards till they reached the city, where they lodged the embassy in the guest house, and the space of 3 days entertained them sumptuously, entreating them with the utmost honor. Then they carried them before Solomon, prophet of Allah, on whom be the peace. And when entering, they would have kissed the ground before him, but he forbade them, saying, It beseemeth not a man prostrate himself to save before Allah, to whom be might and majesty, creator of earth and heaven and all other things. Wherefore, whoso of you hath a mind to sit, let him be seated in my service, or to stand, let him stand, but let none stand to do me worship. So they obeyed him. And the Wazir Faris and some of his intimates sat down, while certain of the lesser sort remained afoot to wait on him. When they had sat a while, the servants spread the tables, and they all, men and beasts, ate their sufficiency. Then Solomon bade Faris expand his errand, that he might be accomplished, saying, Speak, and hide not of that there whereof thou art come. For I know why ye come, and what is your errand, which is thus and thus. The king of Egypt, who dispatched thee, a seam height, hath become a very old man, infirm, decrepit, and Allah, whose name be exalted, hath not blessed him with offspring, male or female. So he abode in cark and care and chagrin from morning to night, and from night to morn. It so happened that one day of the days, as he sat upon the throne of his kingship with his emirs and wazirs, and captains and grandees in attendance on him, he said some of them with 2 sons, other with 1, and others with even 3, who came with their sire to do him service. So he said to himself, in the excess of his sorrow, Who shall get me kingdom after my death? Will any save a stranger take it? And thus shall I pass out of being as though I had never been? On this account, he became drowned in a sea of thought, until his eyes were flooded with tears, and he covered his face with his kerchief, and wept with sore weeping. Then he rose from off his throne, and sat down upon the floor, wailing and lamenting, and none knew what was in his heart, as he grovelled in the ground, save Allah Almighty. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of this tale, until it be morrow.